Hi everybody, welcome to All Games New and Old. I'm David Rodriguez.
I'm Hillary Rodriguez.
And today we're going to be reviewing Woodcraft. This is a game designed by Vladimir Suchy and Ross Arnold and was published by Rio Grande Games in 2022.
It's a 1 to 4 player game, and it says it plays in about an hour and a half to 2 hours, which I think is actually pretty accurate. Especially once you get to know the game. Your learning games will probably be a little longer, of course, but I think the time frame is actually pretty accurate for this game.
Yeah, and I'd say that the main mechanic in this game is it's an action selection game, which we'll go into that when we get to our final discussion, some of the specifics of the rules. So, but first, we're going to start off talking about art and components in this game. Can I get something out of the way right away?
Yes.
Okay. This is an issue that only I have, apparently. But I want you to look for yourself and see. In general, I want to preface this by saying I like the way the art looks in the game. I like your little, I don't know, they're elf helpers or what they are. They look really cool on the little cards. On the cover of the box, though, that lady's got crazy eyes. I don't know what she's doing. I don't know if what she has in her hand is like a sander or what she's doing to that wood. Either way, I don't want any kind of metal implement in her hand because I just think she's imagining grinding down her husband's skull until it died. Because she looks... To me, she looks really just like she just snapped. Like 3 minutes ago, she decided some serious measures had to be taken. That's just me.
It's just you.
It's just me. No one else sees this, but I do. You can tell me if you do too, because listen. I've known some crazy ladies. Okay? So, I'm just saying I know that look. I know that look. It's kind of like that right now.
Are you trying to say I get that look?
No. I wouldn't have married that look. Anyway, but yeah. But it's just the cover, the art on the inside, the same little people. I like them much better. But I have to say that because it plagues my brain every time I look at that cover.
Yeah.
It's like she's right behind me looking at me. Oh, that's why. Yes. So what do you think about the art, though?
I think the artwork's cute. It's kind of like folk, it kind of reminds me of folk art, and then the elves kind of remind me of almost kind of remind me of Pinocchio or a little bit, where it's they, they have kind of a marionette-esque look to them. I think.
Can see that. I just kept thinking of, I'm going to really date myself here, but the old cartoon specials, the Littles, if any of you ever saw that. Because, they literally are little. So, some of them are wearing blueberries as hats, so, this tall, maybe? I don't know. Not too big. Yeah. Anyway, but they're kind of adorable. I really like the art of the things you're making on the contracts. Those are really cool. I actually I don't need anything like this, but I want that little wooden choo-choo train or whatever. It looks really cool. I really dig that art.
Yeah,
especially.
That artwork is really well done.
Yeah. Now, this game has a lot of iconography. Mm-hmm. Quite a lot. Even towards the end, there was some, especially with the helper cards, I had to look up and be what is this thing saying it does? Because it's a lot of, this symbol leads to that, and there's slashes, and it's a lot. That being said, it is pretty easy to look all that up, so I don't mean that as a complaint. It's just there.
Yeah, I think my one complaint with the graphic choices is the your resource track. When you just get the resources into your hands, they use the same symbols as the tracks, except for there's a little hand underneath, and a lot of times it's really hard to see that little hand. Yeah, so I wish they would have just done something a little bit different for that track.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the only real hiccup for me is I'm betting the first time I played solo, and I'm betting there were times where I either gave myself income when it was supposed to be just a one time, or vice versa, just because it's a little hard to see that hand under there. I wish I could have made it a little more clear. That being said, it's not bad, and I think beyond that, the iconography is all at least clear. It takes a bit to learn it, but I don't think you have any trouble seeing it at all. Yeah. I think it makes perfect sense. I was wondering, and I have no idea if the dice here would cause anyone problems if they have colorblind issues. I don't think so. I'm not the expert on this.
I don't think so because the color choices are green, yellow, and brown, and I don't think that because they're different enough colors, I think people that have color blindness, I think there's enough of a difference in those colors that it won't cause an issue. If they had like green and blue and red, like, like the red and brown, like I could definitely see problems there. But I think the color choices that they picked, I think will be okay.
Yeah, it didn't strike me as a huge issue, but I always kind of wonder with that sort of thing. I just don't have the color blindness, so it doesn't affect me too much. The only thing, and this is, again, this is me thinking it probably doesn't really matter, or what I'm going to say would probably not necessarily add anything to this game. I was a little surprised because previously Vladimir Suchy designed Praga Kaput Regni, which was put up by Delicious Games, and they're somehow associated with this too. I'm not sure if they just both put them out together, them and Rio Grande. And comparatively, the production here doesn't seem as impressive to me. Not that it's bad, but in Praga Kaput Regni, it all these like 3D stands and like dual layer boards all over the place and all that kind of thing. And there's not as much of that here. And granted, after I first complained about it, I realized there's not like a ton of need for it in a lot of places. Yep. But, it's just one of those things. I don't think it matters too much. I do like the big, the action selection buzzsaw board. I think that works really well. So, not a real huge complaint. But if you're expecting, after having maybe played Praga, going to this like we did, if you're expecting a whole bunch of like 3D stuff popping off the board, it's just not there. But I don't think it's strictly necessary.
Yeah, I don't think it's needed for this game. It's not really needed for Pragna either, but it does add some depth to Pragna. But like this game has a lot more resource tokens and cards and stuff like that. So I'm sure part of that is a cost production choice. So, and
not a lot of, if any, duplicate art on like the orders. They might all be different pictures. So there is quite a lot of art in here. So
yeah.
Alright, so the theme of this game is you are a woodcrafter trying to become the most famous, most renowned woodcrafter in the entire forest. And you have all these weird little elf people to help you, which is very cute. And they have some magic abilities, which is why you can plant a bit of lumber into a pot and have it grow into a tree again. Weird. But that being said, that one little quirky thing aside, I think the theme is really well integrated here. I like that you're like, oh man, okay, so I've got this lumber, and now I can saw it down in smaller pieces, because all your lumber is represented by your dice. So, like, if you have a die with a 5 on it, and you really need a 2 or a 3 or whatever, you could saw it down, and now you've split it into the two, not really halves, but whatever, that add up to that number. You could do a 1 and a 4, or 2 and 3, whatever you want to do. Or you can glue a couple, as long as it doesn't go over 6, because there's not higher number dice in this game. But you can glue them together to give yourself the piece of wood that you need, or splice on other wood onto it, just to add, to make them go up a little bit. That's really neat. I think that the theme of this game is integrated enough that I think it helps with understanding the game and learning it. But I'm also a much more theme-oriented person than you, so what did you think about the theme?
I think they did a really good job of incorporating the theme throughout the game. Like the one area that I think is a little weird with the theme is that they have a whole bunch of different woodworking tools that you can get by completing jobs. But you don't really use the tools, so like there's like a little attic space that you'll put your tools away in, and if you can set them up in different, like, so that you don't have the same tool next to each other, you get little bonuses. So it's a nice addition thing to like kind of work on and like help you out in the game, but theme wise it seems a little weird.
Yeah, I agree. Like it doesn't entirely make sense. And one thing I think is that theoretically, if you have a wide variety of tools, then that should help you overall with your workshop, and so it gives you these little bonuses to kind of represent that. But yeah, it doesn't matter. If you have a hammer and a saw, you could, whatever combination you want is fine. It's not going to affect your game other than the bonuses between them. I do think it's a little weird that the action selection thing is this giant buzzsaw. Like, oh, I'm going to buy lumber. Let me go to my giant saw to choose that. That's sort of strange.
Well, it's kind of like going to the giant sawmill to get your wood.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that a connection can be made. It's a little odd to me, but that being said, it doesn't bother me one bit. It's completely fine. The rest of it is so cool. And the way that works, which we'll get into in a little bit, is so neat that I am literally just saying that for theme alone, it's bizarre to me, but it's a non-issue to me as well.
Yeah.
So.
So overall, I think this is a fun game. If you like strategy games, I think this is a game that you will like. It's a heavier game. It's basically a Euro game, so it's a little heavier, but it's not. It's not a heavier game where I feel it's very brain burny. I don't feel exhausted after playing this game. I think one of the things that I like about the game is that there are so many different ways that you can play the game. It kind of reminds me of. There's definitely some similarities between this and Progna, and for obvious reasons, but the wheel, but also in that, like, I feel like this isn't a game that you can just crack a code and figure out the best way to play it every single time. It's gonna the cards that you get dealt at the beginning of the game and like your first couple of rounds are gonna kind of determine what you want, what you're gonna end up wanting to focus on. Because, like you might go in going like, oh, well, I'm going to focus on playing this time, but then the cards that you get and the helpers that you get focusing on planting won't actually really help you out very much. There's better ways for you to be able to get your wood and get what you need. And so I really appreciate that each game feels different.
Yeah, I agree. There's so much variety in what you can do and how you can work things to accomplish what you want to do, that it's great. I mean, while there is die rolling in this, and I know a lot of people think, well, that's not very Euro, but like, honestly, it doesn't matter because you have so many ways to change your dice, and that's where like all the interesting stuff comes from. Like your dice are just representing like a quality of, or maybe a size of wood, I suppose, and that's really all you're looking at here. There is randomness in the orders that come out, but in a way that doesn't bother me. I'm kind of talking thematically again because, if you're setting up your wood shop, you don't know what people are going to order yet. They're going to come and they're going to order what they're going to order, and you got to figure out how to make that work. So, that works great for me. This is designed, at least in part, by Vladimir Suchy, the same person who designed Praga Caput Regni, and its action selection thing, the buzzsaw I mentioned earlier, has some similarities to the action selection system in Praga in that, as actions are chosen, the ones that were most recently chosen are going to be less valuable to pick later. You could still get the action on them, but if you pick an action that hasn't been picked in a while, there'll be bonuses along with it too, which is really interesting because you have to decide, like, okay, like this action might be like really, really useful, but if this other one is kind of useful and I get these bonuses, that might help me later, which makes it a more interesting choice than just picking the most obvious thing every single turn. Mm-hmm. It gives you reasons to pick things that you might think may not be immediately optimal, but could be optimal long run. Yeah. Speaking of thinking long run, I will tell you the last time we played, I had so much analysis paralysis. I really did. Every single thing. Because I knew what I was trying to accomplish, but then I was like trying to figure out all my turns on how to get there, which is kind of silly because things can kind of change, like those orders that you think you're going to buy could disappear, or now that bonus you thought you're going to get doesn't happen because she just picked that action. Nonetheless, the potential for analysis paralysis is there, but in other games I played, for some reason it didn't do that to me nearly as much, so I don't know if I was just tired that day, I don't know what was going on, but if you play someone who's really prone to that, I think there's a lot of room on that here because you can do so many things to get to where you want, and trying to figure out what is going to be the most optimal way to do that. And even if you want to worry that much about it, it's just, there's a lot to decide. I taught you the game, which is usually how we do it. And I will say this game has a lot of information to front load when you're teaching. For one thing, you have to just teach how the action selection wheel thing works at all. But then you got to teach what all those actions mean. And you got to go into the free actions. And, there's a ton before you can even start playing that you need to kind of explain. Otherwise, it's just like a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, this isn't really a game where you can just be like, we'll just play a round or two and to show you how it works.
Yeah, because when you get to someone's turn, if they were like, oh, just show me what my choices are, it's going to be like, okay, here's your 7 main action choices, but you can also do these free actions, and don't forget about this person's special ability, and don't forget that you just kind of have to front load it, which is kind of tough. But I do think it helps that the theme is so well integrated, because you can make that make sense. You can be like, oh, well, so you're going to do this over here because you're going to spend glue to stick these two together, and it makes sense. It's not just these arbitrary actions, like we kind of had in Praga, where it's like, okay, why am I getting a window? Why does this help me with this thing? I don't know, but whatever. And I'm not insulting Praga, because that is a great game, but the things here make a lot more sense to people, I think. Yeah. And you don't have to explain the entire history of Prague to explain eggs on a bridge, which is great. It's I think it's, despite that teach, which made me genuinely nervous until I taught you it, I think it's well worth the learn, and I don't think it's as painful as it looks like it's going to be. Yeah,
the iconography really helps out a lot. Especially on the action tiles itself, it's pretty obvious what each of them does. There might be a little bit of questions again at the beginning of like, wait a minute, what does this one do? But most of them you can kind of tell what they do. Some of the bonuses that you get a little bit confusing about what you get, but once you play a few times, it's pretty easy to figure out. I think your personal player board is very easy to understand and read and figure out what means what. And so, I think it is a lot of information kind of just thrown at you at first. But, especially at the beginning, like your first turn or two, like there's really kind of only a couple options that are going to really make a lot of sense for you to be doing anyways. So, it's not until you're through like probably your third or fourth round that you're going to get into some of the more confusing actions anyways. And by that point, you kind of understand why you would do those actions more anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And there are these, I keep wanting to call them common goal or common order cards. I'm not sure I'm using the right terminology, but there's one more of these in however many players you have. And essentially, certain orders that you start with, if you get those done, you can pick one of those, and that'll create like a end of game scoring bonus for you. So you can't ignore those, but you have to decide, do you want to get one early and then have that decide how you're going to play the game, or do you want to play the game a bit and then try to get one that matches how you play it, in the hopes that your opponent is not also looking at that same one and going to take it, because unless you get on the same round, only one person can get it. But I really like that. I love games like this where there's so many ways to get the points you want, and I don't think there is just one right way to do it. I think it just depends on being able to pivot to do whatever you need to do that's out there, and adjust accordingly. And I think it works really, really well. If there's any problems in there, I can't see them. I think it works fantastic as far as that goes. Yeah.
Alright, so for me, I'm going to give this game a 9. I really enjoy this game a lot. I really enjoy how many different ways you can approach the game. Each game, it feels like I'm trying to solve a new puzzle. And I think really the only thing that I kind of wish it had, and I don't know how they would do it, is if there was a way to adjust the difficulty level, just so that, if you're playing with someone that's kind of newer to games, if there's a way to make it a little bit lighter of a game. But I think it would change the game too dramatically, so it would be just a completely different game. So, but for me personally, I really like this game a lot, and I'm excited to keep playing it. So I'm going to give it a 9.
Nice. I am also going to give it a 9. This is probably like as far as weight goes, maybe like the upper end of medium or the lower end of heavy, I would put it in there. And it's rare that a game like that, when I'm done with it, I would be perfectly happy to just reset it up and play again immediately. That doesn't happen very much. Usually I kind of want to okay, let me step back and play something a little lighter, let my brain settle down a little bit. For God's sake, it shoots the ladders out or something after playing the galleries. I don't even care. All right, but this game, no. For some reason, I could play this game back to back easily. It wouldn't even bother me, because even though it's not a short game, it goes along at such a nice clip. Like, you can because you see how the rounds are progressing, and you have that, like, okay, well, now I'm like trying to build things up, and then, you know, you're getting all your stuff done in the middle, but then at the end, you have to start considering different things, because I only have like 3 more turns left. Oh my god, like, can I get this thing accomplished? It's broken up so nicely that it just, to me, it zips along, even though it still just takes as long as it takes.
And we did say that there can be some analysis paralysis in the game, and that definitely can happen. The thing that's nice about this game is that, for the most part, like, if you're playing at a higher player count, it's probably more likely to come up, but for the most part, like, because there's 4 different sections in that turn action phase, even if someone takes the action that you are planning on using, you are more than likely still able to do that action. You just might not get the bonus that you thought you were going to get.
Right.
And so, you know, so even though someone may take the action that you were planning on using, you're likely still going to be able to still do the action you were planning. So. Yeah,
for sure. So, yeah, I very little complaints. It's hard because, honestly, I don't have a lot of negative to say to it. It's just not quite to a 10 for me, but that being said, I mean, 9 is still a fantastic score, and I definitely want to play this game a lot more and try other combinations of things to focus on if the game will let me do that without making me switch gears, and just see how they go for me, because it's just, like, you just can't do everything. Like, there's just no way. You're not going to maximize everything. Well, someone's going to come and be like, well, I did it because I'm an amazing gamer. Okay, that's you, buddy. But I can't do it, and I just love messing with it and seeing what I can get done with whatever my choices are. It's just so fun. So I would love to hear in the comments if any of you are interested in playing this game, or if you're going to buy this game, or what you think of the art, including Crazy Eyes back here, or, you know, if you looked at this and you thought, well, this is really not for me, I would love to hear why that is too. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just curious. I love to hear that kind of thing from people. So please in the comments, let me know if you're going to interact with this game in any way, even if it's just walking away from it. I want to know. But in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please hit like and subscribe and click the little bell icon so you can know about the next time we put out a video. Otherwise, I look forward to see you all around the table again at All Games New and Old.
Bye.
You said wood. If you enjoyed that video, you might also like this one.
Or this one.
If you like any of our videos, what you should do is click this little button to subscribe so you'll know about the next time we put out a video.
We'll see you around the table.
Bye.
Bye.